Congrats. Now,
Thanks.
when you won Mrs. Vermont, you had to come up with a platform for your reign. How did you decide to make it about recovery and speak publicly on what for some might be a very difficult or private topic?
Right. At first, I wouldn't say tried to avoid it, that's strong. I looked for other alternatives. I wanted to talk about how I do economic empowerment coaching to women in Africa, and I wanted to talk about women's circles that I'm a part of here in South Burlington to help empower women. And nothing was really feeling completely right. You know, you just don't, I didn't get it in my bones. I didn't get it in my gut. And then eventually my husband, who is a very patient and wise man, finally said, hey, Hannah, like, here is your topic. You have been in recovery for 4 years. And every time you talk about it to someone and let them know that they can achieve sobriety and that they can find a life that's better than what they were living, you're helping someone. You're already doing it. So be authentic and really just be who you are and bring your real life. And that's what I did.
So you said, you know, you're not going to hide behind this, quote, wall of shame. Were you ashamed of your addiction?
I think most people are ashamed to talk about the quote unquote ugly. You know, I think in America we're really conditioned to put on our masks. How I describe it is, you know, I was one person to the business world. I was someone else to my friends. I was someone else to my parents. I was someone else to people at church. And I think we're really conditioned to try to look good on the outside, and people don't always feel comfortable sharing what their struggles are. And I'm finally at the point where I'm going, you know what? It is time to start talking about what we're struggling with, because it doesn't make us any less as people. There's nothing to be ashamed of.
Well, you called your addiction kind of the perfect storm. It started with an eating disorder as a teenager and grew to encompass alcohol, drugs, and even what you called sort of excessive flirting. What do you think happened along the way?
I think I was living what the traditional teenager and 20-year-old thought were the right ways to go about being in the world. I did fall into an eating disorder. It was more about control for me when the world was spiraling out of control for colleges and just being a young adult. And that was the way that I could control what was around me. The alcohol, I was encouraged in college, you know, to drink to excess and blacking out and all of the craziness that went along with excessive drinking never seemed unusual in the crowds that I ran with, in the social circles, and the validation from men, the excessive flirting. We're, as women, encouraged in a lot of ways to get our power from using our femininity, and it all came to a head 4 years ago, and it became bigger than I was. All of those behaviors that seemed small enough and innocent enough.
So how did you finally decide that you were going to tackle this and try to get on the road to recovery?
I think of it as sort of like playing a country song backwards. And ironically, this was my favorite joke before it even happened. But what do you get when you play a country song backwards?
You get your dog back, you get life back, you get everything back.
Yeah, you get your truck back, your dog back, your house back. And that's exactly what happened to me, is I lost everything. I lost my husband, I lost my house, I lost my job, I lost my car. And I had two options. I either could check out, like sadly so many people do, or I could check in, and by that I meant check myself into a recovery center that could help me to rebuild who I was. And I took it on as a full-time mission for that first year, and I did everything that I could. I'm no hero. I don't do any more than people in recovery around the world, and there are 23 million right now from alcohol and drugs alone. Some estimates say 10% of adult Americans are in long-term recovery.
Well, we don't have too much time left. You are now back together with your husband. You have a 2-year-old daughter. Yes, just turned 2.
Yes.
For viewers out there who are struggling, what is the number one thing you want them to learn from your experience?
I want them to know that sometimes the problems, the habits, the pains become bigger than we are. And when that happens, it's okay. And the most courageous thing that they can do is to stop trying to struggle through it themselves and to raise the white flag like I did and ask for help.
Ask for help. And I know you say that when you are in recovery, you actually gain a lot back. You gain your life back, which you have as well. Hannah Kirkpatrick, Mrs. Vermont, congratulations. Thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you. It's an honor every day.
Mike?